to Sarah's Storytime. I left you hanging last week, and I really hope that you haven't been on tenterhooks for the rest of the week. So, if you've got your cup of tea and your piece of cake again, then let's carry on with the story of the Sleeping Beauty. 100 years passed, and in that time the legend spread far and wide, as did the thorns and brambles, until they covered almost the entire kingdom. Fairly soon after the 100 years had passed, a prince from a very far away land, somewhere in the Arabian desert, heard of the legend and decided to seek the princess. He fell in love with the description that he heard, and he sought her out. He sought long and hard for her, until one day he came across a giant thicket of thorns and brambles, somewhere in Eastern Europe. As night was drawing in, he decided to sleep. He set up camp, made a fire, had some food, and then settled down to sleep before his big event, before the thicket. As he slept, he began to dream. Now, in this dream, 3 fairies appeared. They were whispering above his head, and he thought he could hear them in real life, but he thought it wasn't possible. "Is he the one?" they asked. "He has the look of a prince," said the other. "If he is, he'll need this," said the third, drawing out a long golden sword with a blade as sharp as any weapon could have. They laid it beside him. "Let's see what happens. Perhaps he'll even defeat her," they said, and left. The prince turned over and went back to sleep, or in the dream he went back to sleep. However, when he awoke, there, lying on the ground next to him, was a gold sword with a blade as sharp as any weapon. He picked it up and turned it this way and that. It was light as a feather in his hand and gave him a sense of peace, of strength. And so he started towards the thicket. But lo and behold, when he placed his blade near to the thicket, instead of thorns and brambles, suddenly the landscape changed. Instead of twisting, turning vines and dangerous pricks that could happen, flowers appeared, wild flowers of blue and red and gold. And he walked, as if in a dream, into the thicket. He found a stream and followed it, for he had a feeling that the stream would lead to the castle. As he did, even more thorns and brambles turned into flowers, into butterflies. And then, in the distance, suddenly before him, he caught a glimpse of a ray of sunlight piercing a window. And then he went a little bit further on, and he started to see battlements, grey and old, as if they had been there for 100 years or more. He kept walking, and soon he came to a drawbridge. The oak was still there, and yet the castle was as if it were a dream. No sound stirred. No clanging, no calling, no voices, no sounds. He walked in, his hand on his sword. He looked round as he entered into the courtyard of the castle and saw a little old lady sitting there at a spinning wheel. "So you have come at last," she said. "I know who you are," he replied. "You're her, aren't you?" "I am," she replied, almost humbly. "What are you going to do about it? You know I cannot be killed." "I know you cannot be killed." "That is a lie, and I will not believe that," he replied. "Then taste my wrath and my power," she said, kicking the spinning wheel aside and beginning to grow into a large, venomous snake, bigger than any he had seen. It coiled itself around him and threatened and started to tighten. He got his arms out of the way with his sword in hand, tried to hack at the scales, but they were as hard as rock and immovable. Then she started to crush his rib cage. It got tighter and tighter until he was almost unconscious. But at that moment, he realized that there was one part of the snake that had no protection, and that was its neck, right at the base of the skull. He took his sword and he slashed it clean through the point of contact. At that, the snake's head flew clean off the body, rolled to the floor, and as the light in its eyes went out, the coils unwrapped themselves and dissolved into the ground, till nothing was left of the evil fairy but the looks of a discarded spinning wheel. For good measure, he set it alight and let it burn, watching it for a little while until he continued on through the castle. Everywhere he looked, he saw statues of people. The baker, ready to hit the kitchen boy. The stable boy in the stables, getting ready a horse. The gardener raking the leaves from the grass. He saw the tallest tower. He made his way up the stairs. Up and up and up he climbed, still further up and further on, forever climbing until he reached the top of the tower. There he saw Aurora, the sleeping princess. His heart skipped a beat. She was even more lovely than he had come to realize. He went over gazed at her in her beauty, and then placed a soul-chaste kiss on her lips. For a moment, nothing happened. The prince was about to go and kiss her again, just for good measure. And she stirred a little, stretched, and blinked, and then gazed into the eyes of her beloved. At that point in time, her heart opened so much that she could scarcely breathe. So beautiful was he. As she awoke and sat up into his arms, the rest of the palace started to move again. The kitchen boy got slapped. The horse was saddled. The leaves were raked out of the grass. The king and queen awoke and realised that the curse must have been broken. How they ran to the tallest tower, as fast as their legs could carry them. The celebrations lasted for weeks. The whole kingdom came back into existence, having been taken over almost by the thorns. And the party, oh, the party was so amazing. It was 10 times better than any celebration that they ever put on. The fountains ran again with wine, the sweetmeats of marzipans, of baklava, of the joining of cultures from the Middle East and Eastern European lands. So many different dignitaries. And they and the prince and princess, and obviously in turn king and queen, lived happily ever after. The end. I really hope you enjoyed that, because I did, and you can probably tell by the great big smile on my face. Please don't forget to comment, rate and subscribe, and at some point I am going to work out how to do a GIF for that, so I don't have to do that every week. Next week is going to be another princess tale, but this time, well, I say a princess tale, it's more of a very long, hairy tale. I'll see you next week.